For 200 years, Charleston has told this story. 6 miles outside the city stood an inn called the 6 Mile House. It was run by a man named John Fisher and his wife, Lavinia, young, beautiful, and charming. As the story goes, Lavinia would invite lone travelers in for dinner. She'd ask about their work, their business in Charleston, how much they were carrying, and if the answers were right, she'd send them up to bed with a cup of tea laced with oleander. Some versions say John crept into the room and finished them off. Others say Lavinia pulled a lever, and a trapdoor beneath the bed dropped the sleeping man into a cellar that would eventually hold 20-30 bodies. And when they finally hanged her, the legend says she climbed the gallows in her wedding dress, looked out at the crowd, and said, "If you have a message for the devil, give it to me. I'll carry it." America's first female serial killer. That's the story. Almost none of it is true. Here is what the documents actually show. Lavinia Fisher was real. So was John. So was the 6 Mile House. But they weren't lone innkeepers. They were part of a gang of highwaymen working the road into Charleston, robbing the wagon traffic that carried goods and money in and out of the city. In February of 1819, a group of Charleston vigilantes rode out to clear them off the road. They burned the 5 Mile House. They gave the people at the 6 Mile House 15 minutes to leave, then burned that too. Then they went home, leaving one man behind, David Ross, to keep watch. The next day, Ross was attacked. He said Lavinia Fisher was among them. He said he begged her for help, and instead she choked him and put his head through a window. He got away and rode for Charleston. Then a traveler named John Peoples stopped at the house. Lavinia offered him tea. He didn't like tea, so he poured it out when she wasn't looking. She questioned him for hours, and when he finally went up to bed, he was uneasy enough that he didn't lie down. He sat in a chair by the door. Peoples got out and rode for Charleston too. Between the two of them, the authorities finally had names. The Fishers were arrested. And here is the part the legend never mentions. They were not convicted of murder. They were convicted of highway robbery, which in 1819 was enough to hang for. There was no trapdoor. Houses in the Low Country don't have cellars. The water table won't allow it. The 6 Mile House burned to the ground in 1819, and nothing was recovered from it. No pile of bodies, no lime pit. Retired homicide investigator Bruce Orr spent years on the case and found no evidence that John or Lavinia Fisher ever killed anyone at all. They spent months in the old city jail. They tried to escape once. A rope of prison linen out the window. It broke. John made it down. Lavinia didn't. And John Fisher would not leave without his wife, so he let himself be taken back in. Their appeal was denied. On February 18th, 1820, they were hanged. The Charleston paper printed it the next morning. John protested his innocence to the end. Lavinia, it said, did not show the same fortitude. She believed right up to the last moment that a pardon was coming. It never did. They embraced each other on the platform. The drop fell. She died instantly. He struggled for several minutes. There was no wedding dress. The condemned were dressed in plain white gowns for the gallows. That's what the crowd saw that day, a young woman in a long white dress. And over 200 years of retelling, a white dress became a wedding dress. There was no message for the devil either. That line doesn't appear in a single account from the time. It shows up decades later, once the story stopped belonging to the people who watched it happen. The bodies were taken down and carried to the potter's field, the burying ground for the poor, the unclaimed, and the condemned. That ground is gone now. The city grew over it. Today there's a hospital complex standing where it used to be. There's no grave to visit, no stone, nothing to read, just the story. And the story got away from the truth a long time ago. Lavinia Fisher was hanged for robbery. She may have been a violent woman in a violent trade. She may also have been a woman with a bad reputation in a town that needed someone to hang. What she almost certainly was not is the monster Charleston made her. Follow Carolina Crime Vault, buried in Southern soil.